in the fridge, which sounds gross, but it was the exact kind of gross that I needed after getting just fucking railed by the subway system.
A nice endorsement of how much Sam enjoys this brand of poutine, evidently, is the fact that he did not open this with the words Cuomo's Wild Ride, which has appeared in our little personal... It's not a group chat because there are 2 people in it. It has the volume of the average group chat. But I can only describe my experience of the last 2.5 hours to this point as being Cuomo'd. An experience that 2 kinds of people have. Those who ride public transit in Cuomo's jurisdiction, and those that work under him when he's in a mood.
So, when COVID happened, and I started taking the subway again after a couple of months, I noticed that no one was on it, and the trains were running, pretty nicely, pretty well. Even if they weren't running overnight, I didn't really need to take them overnight. That's not, how long I worked. And this is how I know that COVID is almost done, because the trains have stopped working again.
The darkness has come. All I can think, as I calculate my, 2.5 weeks of the virus, how much more virus time would I just slide back into to clear out that subway car and get to where I'm going on time?
I would like a month at least. I would give myself COVID again and have it be really fucking bad for like a month if it meant that I got another year of a half-decent fucking subway system.
I would do some straight HP to MP bullshit on that front.
I would lower my lifespan by a decade if I could spend the rest of my life writing a fucking subway system that works.
We're optimizers here on ye old Weeaboo Hell is the point. So with all of that acridity, all of that acid flowing through our veins, I want to balance it out with 2 positive notes.
Okay.
First off, a career note. Some crazy shit happened this week for one of us. As any of you know, if you go on SeeMoreEvil.com, Sam got promoted. And that's the career news for the week. Also, we're going to talk about Jojo for a bit because we enjoy that business. Haman, stands, whatever spin is. I read part 7 twice. I enjoy it. Still kind of vague.
It's, you can spin. You spin it just a little bit,
You can spin. I am left to assume that spin is Haman but aesthetic.
I think it has to do with the fact that, when like with gravimetric, like, how large objects, kind of weigh down space-time or something like that?
I really like that you use the word gravimetric because now I can just assume that you're right, and that makes my whole take on this a lot easier.
It's like physics, but with posing.
Yeah.
All right, so it's Pride Month. Specifically, it's Pride Weekend.
It is Pride Weekend.
We're doing a Pride Month, Pride Weekend special here.
And like Raytheon, we are all about Pride, so we are going to... That's a in-joke between me and him. Raytheon, like many companies, has a Pride version of its logo, and it is the weirdest company. Forget like how baseline offensive the idea is. Before we even get to that, it is a weird choice. First off, Raytheon...
They make ICBMs.
They make ICBMs, which, evil, bad, and all that. But also is not beholden in any way to the attitudes of us day-to-day citizenry.
No, not even in the slightest.
Like, Raytheon has PR trivia more than it has PR problems.
It almost seems condescending of them to pretend that our opinions matter.
I don't know what it means.
I mean, this is true of all of the corporations, of the entire...
Yeah, but other corporations...
Of the whole Bank of America Pride float
might have, like, at least a consumer vector where you understand why they're pandering to you. Raytheon does not have to pander to me or you or anyone that breathes or walks. Except various senators.
I mean, do they breathe? Are they human?
Photosynthesis. That's weird. But the point, as you're saying, Pride Month, Jojo, this was your brainchild that you just walk us into this garden of earthly delights.
It's really easy. We're going to rank the Jojo parts on how gay they are. There we go.
Okay, that's simple. So when you say rank them, do we march through them in order and talk about them and then like put them in order, or how do you want to go about this?
It's not gonna be organized. We're gonna throw shit out, and we're gonna kind of come up with a really rough list here.
All right, so let's break this down then into some fun categories. I think that's a fun way to do it.
We could do that, but I'm also just kind of going with like the general vibe of a show too. Like
Okay.
part 7, right? Cowboy shit. I don't know. That's kind of.
There was a popular movie about.
There's a very popular movie about gay cowboys. I don't think that Brokeback Mountain makes part 7 any more or less gay. However,
I mean, more importantly, if you want to stab at it, compared to the other parts, I mean, you know, in other parts, like, herds of heroes are sort of put together by circumstance, but I think part 7 is in a real way more about, I don't know, male companionship than a lot of, in a serious way, not like the core joke of this episode.
Sure. I mean, so is part 4. Part 4 is...
So is part 4. That is true. That is an element of part 4. I guess it stands out to me more in part 7 because it's specifically 2 people.
Here's the weirdest thing about part 4 is that Josuke set off my gaydar way more than a lot of other JoJo's, and I still think it is one of the least gay parts of this series.
That might be partially just because part 4 is focus is a little more diffuse in a good way. I don't mean that in like a... I mean, like anything else, something can be scattershot in an interesting way or in an annoying way. Part 4 is really a small world tour of ideas that are kicking around Araki's brain.
Sure. I would rate it as my favorite one, too. It just...
my favorite one...
It just comes together the most for me.
That's fair. My favorite one is part 7. My recurring joke about part 7 is that's the second best JoJo about everything. It's like, and if a part is like, oh, it has like the second best fights and the second best art and second best characterization. It's a nice ball of things. Part 7 of JoJo's a great time.
That would be how it wins the ranked choice voting.
That would be how it would win the ranked choice voting.
Because everyone's got a different...
Does that make part 1 Eric Adams? Like a bunch of really shallow thinkers watch it and stop there?
Part 2 is the gayest, right? There's just so much fucking man-ass in that thing.
So you're really stepping on my balls here because I was gonna sort of pitch part 5 as a front runner on that front.
So part 5 is almost certainly its main competition. Absolutely. So let's start there. Let's start with who gets number 1 and who gets number 2 because like Morgan, do you want to be a part of this episode? All right.
All right, we have lost a volunteer.
God damn it. All right.
So that brings our qualifier to talk about this ratio down to about 50%,
50%.
which is great.
Oh, I need to come out on the air now, don't I?
No, you don't. You can leave it totally vague and we can totally march on because you don't own the internet. Shit.
Okay, fine. It gets shit.
Yeah. Fuck all you people. Alright, let's... Rolling ahead.
So, just cars alone...
There is some strong aesthetic stuff going on of the entire Pillarman axis.
It's the Pillarman thing. Like, that's the thing. On one hand, we have the whole Pillarman thing. So my main argument for... part 2 is that this was when the series was still kind of in its Fist of the North Star art style kind of deal.
So aesthetically...
So, like, aesthetically, you have this really... kind of village people sort of thing going on.
Village people, there's the hyper-masculine musculature thing laid in a very bare manner. There's a lot of just sort of skin-to-page ratio in the character designs.
He's just also very, very interested in having all of these men turned away from us. To put it way less crudely than I should have put it.
Everyone loves to do that bodybuilding competition, turn around, behold the deltoids. You might have expected an ass joke there, but they are so proud of their deltoids.
They just...
It's like, behold, the shoulders of a god!
These traps. Traps are the real accomplishment. For me, at least.
I think I may have used the word delta when I intended trap, but you get what I meant.
You're talking about these guys, right?
Yeah.
Those are traps, yeah.
Those are traps, yeah.
Deltoids
there are some trap gods, so to speak.
The trapped god. I don't actually remember what deltoids are.
Evidently, I fucking don't either, but I meant the traps. For those of you who do not lift or do but have good self-esteem, pat your shoulders, traps.
Those are the traps.
Well,
Like,
pat your back shoulders.
Pat your back shoulders with the same, like, don't switch sides. Like, don't pat one shoulder with your opposite hand. You need to, like, pat both shoulders with your same hands. And, and like, this would be really cool if this was a TV show and you could see me doing this.
So I think in terms of art, I would say that Part 2 definitely does edge out 5. Part 1 has some similar aesthetic turns, but does not have the specific pillar men in it, and because Part 2 is kind of just better drawn because he's just done it for longer, it's...
What do you mean, Part 5?
No, I'm talking compared to Part 1. I'm just talking...
Compared to Part 1, yes.
Yeah, because Part 2 is... It sort of can take the aesthetic lead on the hyper-musculature sort of Fist of North Star thing, scantily clad bit.
Yeah.
So I guess what gets me towards Part 5 when I think of it as the gayest one is I am unfortunately a victim of my education, so in my head I think, like, what is the story about when you peel back the Pixar layers and it's what if X had feelings?
Sure.
And Part 5, it's like, what if male companionship had feelings and explosions? And it is very invested in the gears of how these 4 boy bandish men interact. And violence. Poison Man doesn't count. He got ridden the fuck out.
He got ridden way the fuck out. I was thinking just like, I think you forgot Fugo. No, Araki forgot Fugo. He wrote Fugo to be too fucking broken.
Yeah.
And he had to fucking write him out.
Fugo has one of the better non-time stopping powers in that fucking franchise.
Jesus fucking Christ. It's the same. It's like the same thing happened in Part 4 with the Special Boy, because the hand is fucking god tier. So he had to make him stupid so he couldn't use it to its god tier powers. So then
his entire climb up the power scale was just rising in IQ.
And so here's Fugo, right? And he did it again. Except he's already written Fugo to be too smart. So he actually just needs to fucking get rid of him.
It's wild. I don't know what solutions are. Do you make him a narcoleptic?
You make him a bitch, I guess.
It is truly like that sometimes. So, once again, we were talking about Part 2 versus 5 in this regard.
We need to talk about the torture dance. I don't know what it means, but it means something.
I mean, at least in a fucking American gay culture, due to just unfortunate history and stereotypes, there is that lodged in idea that random high-level choreo
was it associated with musicals who are... I guess it's more of like a boy band thing, the way that it was sort of laid out. I mean, it's only a couple of panels in the
high-level choreo is a boy band.
Yeah, boy band thing. Okay, sure, yeah. So you got that, but then in the show they realized that was half of the reason that anyone was watching Part 5, was they wanted the torture dance.
It is...
So they turned it into an entire fucking music video.
I admire that creative choice.
It is probably the best remembered scene from the anime.
Oh, additional credit to the anime, I expected memes to take the world by storm of how does King Crimson work, but it just benefited from being in a time-based medium, I guess.
King Crimson made far more sense to me on the screen than on the page. Although I was still reading scanlations. Yeah. I was still reading scanlations when I read part 5.
If you want a easy ride, so to speak, a nice old internet thing you can look up is that there is a series of GIFs of how various stands work. Okay. The King Crimson one lays out pretty well. But even better than that, there is a fan-made comic. There's a fan-made comic of how King Crimson works. It's a 3-panel comic. Oh, the guy shoots a gun. King Crimson pushes the middle panel, saying "Nope,
no, not that one,"
where the bullet hits, and then there's the bullet behind him, that's nice.
And that's how it works.
Yeah.
But everyone remembered Abakio stomping on the dude.
And if you like speed reading, just weird the world. Move on with your life.
I mean, not that that wasn't a great scene.
Something I realize we have not considered in the rankings here.
Sure.
I feel that for all the sort of aesthetic or subliminal or tropey, gay affiliated things that we're talking about in the 7 parts, in the ones we're not considering for the top 2, 1 and 3, those are the parts that actually do have a borderline romantic fixation with the whole Dayle Jonathan thing. And we have not penciled those in as high ranked, which I understand because in terms of like raw screen time. Maybe this is a 3-4 conversation, but it's coming to me now.
I definitely see it in part 1, less so in part 3, because in part 3...
Well, I guess part 3 is a consequence of part 1 events in a way.
It is a consequence of part 1, but in part 3, I don't actually know if you could even call Dio queer. Because he's sort of almost queer-coded, just a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of go through how he is in parts 1 and 3. And he seems... I get more Ace vibes off of him than anything.
So
the problem is that he fathered a son. So there's that.
There's that. I don't think you're actually textually wrong with any of that. But in this entire project, we're talking about a lot of things that are just coded, like heavy male musculature in slow motion, screaming "Awaken my masters" is coded, not actual. Extended spontaneous choreo is coded, not actual. So I think that this element that is more coded, while as a narrative thing, I guess I'm not sure why we would weight it more or less than that.
Sure. No, I get that.
I guess I'm getting less... I mean, I know the core premise here was sort of wacky, but in this tug of war, I think this plot that is driven on this fixation on someone who is his friend and borderline family and enemy, and just this like constant focus in his head. And really, you are definitely right. Definitely way more of a part 1 thing.
Yes,
but it's
in part
why
3,
the whole ship
kind of there in Egypt, just like and here's like these 5 guys who are here now, and he's like, oh cool, I didn't call for you.
That is true. I guess what I'm arguing here is the top 3 is some permutation of 5, 2, 1.
All right, so here's the thing about part 8. The thing about part 8 is that Gappy is literally 2 men fused together by the testicles. We need to reckon with this.
That is very true about Gappy. But there's another thing about Gappy that is less involved in the coding of earlier JoJo's, even Joseph, in that he is textually just borderline harem flooded.
Yeah, he eats pussy.
With Giant.
That's the issue with Gappy, is that Gappy eats pussy. He like has a canonical girlfriend and everything like that. It's hard to get around. Certainly,
it's present. It makes him a borderline battlefield state, I would say. Battleground state, whatever the fuck you call it. State where they're not sure if fascism is good or bad. Oh, I'm sorry. My tilt came out there again. I mean, a lot of my political opinions came out this week when Sam got promoted.
Dennard's going to maybe be in a magazine you might have heard of at some point. You might see.
Impossible. Before we dive into 8, let's start to nail our top 2.
We're going to nail our top 2 here. I'm going to... The thing about part 5 is that they are in the company of this knockout girl who is wearing next to nothing the entire time, and none of them could even be fucked to stare.
Oh, man. Oh, she's like their luggage. Hey, make sure no one damages the luggage. We're gonna have to pay a fine.
Trish, shut the fuck up. Go hide in the turtle. I think part 5 is the gayest part.
The animation kind of tilts this one. I think we can come together there.
Okay, cool. We're in agreement. So part 5 is the gayest JoJo part. I don't actually know how close it even was, to be entirely honest with you.
I don't think you had a bad argument with 2 at all, with the sweaty musculature that infuses that thing. like, how do I put this? I can't even remember the name, but I was in a bar earlier today to show. I have this friend from Malaysia who wanted to do the whole New York Pride thing, and so I brought him. So he wants to see like these clubs, and I brought him to like a place that basically had a name like Iron Stick, and there was art on some posters in there that reminded me very much of a Part 2 Jojo.
Oh, sure, okay.
Yeah. So I understand why that was your lead-in.
Well, it's definitely like, yeah, no, it does seem to be rooted in that kind of very 80s sort of pre-AIDS epidemic aesthetic that was sort of popular in the community, or not popular in the community, but was. I need to not talk like I'm an expert in this, because I'm super not. Probably has a little bit more to do with how things were in Japan specifically. I mean, it has the most to do with Fist of the North Star and, you know, the Rikio, that kind of thing.
Holy shit, we haven't talked about any Fist of the North Star shit on our anime podcast.
Would Kenshiro have just been like, I don't know, I feel he would have gotten fucking Roman Reigns heat, because there's no way he'd do anything but a baby face. There's no way he'd do anything other than win.
Oh man, in the wrestling episode, it is a pure Lex Luger situation.
Oh god.
The backlash would be atomic, but alright, we'll give 5-1, 2-2, which is a funny lineup. So let's talk about our three contenders.
Sure.
So we brought up one's leading element that might contended there.
Mm-hmm.
It's an important point.
A little bit of homoeroticism, not any eroticism though.
And we get 5-1, right?
5's 1.
So let's see.
So we got 3, 4. Again,
let's talk about 6 in a women's prison.
Yeah, let's talk about 6 in a women's prison here.
Because I thought it would have, with that premise, have like breached the top power 2, but because of certain early narrative choices.
And if you haven't read it and are waiting for the anime, you'll know what those choices are very soon.
There is some hard-coded amusing shit in the core of the character. It's Part 6 is overall a very good part. I just always make fun of the first 2 chapters as, without spoilers, Jolene just literally screams, "Romeo, no!" Rock says, "I'm gonna write a woman in for the first time."
And then by the third chapter, he decides that he needs to start taking this seriously now.
Yeah. There's an amusing conversion there.
So here's the thing. In terms of coding,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there was less than 6. In terms of text, though, Poochie.
Our reverend here. Actually, I guess everything I said about one's fixation might apply doubly for
Enrico Poochie. Yeah.
Yeah, Well, Part 6 kind of pulling ahead, so women's prison, Poochie's existence.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who haven't read 6, spoiler town, spoiler, Poochie is a reverend stand user who is just fixated on Dio and Dio's discarded plans, while Dio is very, very dead,
like
hyper
extremely dead,
super dead. And he's just... There isn't an actual painting of Dio, but if there was, he's rubbing it and saying, "Do it for her." A la The Simpsons is the gag there. So yeah, I see where this guy's coming from, and that is a strong point.
On the other hand, I don't remember Josuke ever showing any interest in women.
He's about that coin and people not dying.
He is more about the coin. I will say, like, the reason that he is my favorite JoJo and that Part 4 is my favorite part is that I love...
He's such a humanized teenager.
He's such a teenager. He's just kind of a fucking piece of shit. Like, in his off hours.
Yeah.
Him and the special boy. I just kind of imagine in between episodes, they're just kind of hanging out in the parking lot or something.
The man might have a point there.
Like, he occupies himself with what? Get-rich-quick schemes in his off hours because he doesn't have any fucking money because he's fucking 15. 14. He might. I can't remember. He's
amazing
on the younger side.
4 is going to be a relatively low ranking one. This one,
I think so because
first off, it's a point in his art style where he's sort of going for more expressive cartooning based thing.
Yes, it's very very. It seems it is the least sexy part.
It's least sexy part. It has a great style. They all have great styles, but Araki doesn't stand still, and there's a sort of horseshoe you can draw of style throughout Jojo, where 1 goes for detail by way of the sort of Fist of North Star or Baki, like kind of musculature kind of thing, and 8 has gone detailed by way of this fashion catalog thing that is very uniquely his.
Yes.
And
he's starting to get into that in 4. 4 is when the fashion catalog thing, I think, began. In 3, yeah, they have some very creative outfits, but it seems more like they're more wearing just anime clothes than they are wearing like interesting fashion mag, Milan runway shit. The way that they are fully wearing by 5.
I think that is definitely a fair way of putting that. Let's get down to the verses here.
Okay.
So there's 6, 7, and 1 for this slot.
For this slot? Okay.
Oh, and 8 if you count the catalog being a stronger force than how about that life he is.
Just
It's also worth noting in 8 that the antagonist's daughter is totally fixated on him. He's trying to just push this girl off.
But why is he trying to push this girl off?
Because he knows where the water in his dish is poured.
I think it might be 7. No, 7, 1. Okay.
There's that little bit of controversy in there, isn't there?
It's difficult.
I mean, despite coming at this from the point of hilarity, I think the Poochie thing kind of pushes it over the edge for 6.
Yeah,
Romeo aside.
He's because the thing about Poochie is that he's so much more present in 6 than the previous couple of bad guys were.
That's true. Dio and
Dio was kind of looming there in part 3 and then
Dio
showed up
there,
at the end.
And Mr. King Crimson is also very much an end boss type, though he sort of comes in more towards the latter half. But
Yoshikage Kira was fucking there in part 4, so he's kind of the exception.
Kira and Poochie are very much more like the heavy kind of antagonists. Mm-hmm. It's got that I don't know, A New Hope kind of thing where a lot of their action and irritation and motives moves things along.
Yeah. The other reason that part 4 is probably the least gay part is that Kira is definitely not gay. Kira is, that one weird shower scene with the kid aside, Kira seems to be into women's hands. Specifically into women and specifically into their hands. I don't think an argument could really be made that he's into anything other than women and specifically their hands.
At least not without drifting into galaxy brain gifs.
Which it's fucking too late at night for us to start doing that.
Okay.
So I actually want to say that 4 probably gets the number 8 spot.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, and 8 slotted.
We have 1, 2, and 8 slotted. Because
I think that 3 would be right behind 4 and 7.
Yeah. No, it's
part
it's
3
like
of JoJo
a bunch of giant fucking dudes and their dog on a journey to go see another dude. Now, the fact that they're on their way to try and kill him is nuance.
We've got a gift for you, and it's just a fist in a Christmas box.
And they're doing this... and here's the one, actual female character in this story, and she's off here in a coma somewhere in Japan, completely irrelevant to any of the actual events that are going on. She's just, she's kind of there. She's, holy...
Fucking hilarious. Alright, so any thoughts on 6 or 3? As in slots 6 or 3, not parts 6 or 3.
Slots 6 or 3.
This is where it gets borderline confusing. I'm wondering if I should write... I'm just going to type this out on my phone.
Okay, cool.
1...
Part 5. Oh, we should just be calling them by their names. Yeah, we really gotta start calling these by their names.
All right.
You said a sentence just now, and I don't know exactly what the
diving.
meaning
All right, diving back in. I've written out everything. We're going to start using names just for general understanding to make life non-painful.
Vento Oreo, number 1.
Vento Aureo is number 1. Battle Tendency is number 2. Stardust Crusaders is number 7.
Is number 7?
Was there a fuck
No,
up?
my argument was that it should be higher on the list.
We're gonna have a problem here.
It's about 5 dudes going to see another dude going on like their dude field trip.
Stardust Crusaders is ranked 3.
Part 3, number 3.
Yeah.
As above, so below.
Alright. So
I don't think that's what that phrase actually
Vento,
means.
it doesn't matter. Language is ours to crush and leave
As
broken for next
B3,
generation.
so B3.
Okay. And we have Diamond as the least.
Diamond is Unbreakable is probably the least gay, yes.
Alright. Rank 4. I once again will voteth for women's prison main villain fixated on dead compadre.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that.
Stone Ocean.
Stone Ocean is the number 4th. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So what's left here? We've got part 1
What is left
and
is
part 7 and part 8.
Yes.
Man, I don't know, man. 2 dudes fused together. Think of it like this. It's like Steven Universe, right? It's like if Garnet started just dating guys, just dating around. It's like that. That's the kind of sense that this makes to me.
That is a highly entertaining metaphor.
She just like started just being like a complete fucking man-eater. It's basically just a gender flip version of that to me.
You know, I really enjoy the main theme song from that show, by the way. It has a charm to it. It's inimitable. Like, it wouldn't have worked for another program.
It's Space Oddity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was like one of my favorite little things about it. I like the song from the movie that was
the one that wasn't the villain song?
That's the normie choice for the best song for the movie. The actual best song for the movie was Pearl's song.
You know, I prefer the villains to the heroes in my media.
It was just so more interesting. It's more compelling to see why are evil.
We don't hate all of you, only some of you.
We hate like enough of you.
I promise.
Well, probably more than is healthy. Not all of you though.
Buy our t-shirts when they come out.
Or don't, because we hate you. I don't want you wearing my shit.
I would be cool if you bought my t-shirt, but like didn't wear it out. Like, you don't have to associate me with your stuff. Okay. Jokes aside, we love you all, except Paul Mackendorf in Kentucky. Let's get to our 6th rank here.
Mm.
We are still left with part 7 and part 1.
It's interesting. I thought 7 would have been higher on this list.
It's interesting. Yeah, we're talking...
But like, this process of elimination. It's just not honestly that... Yeah, it's just not that gay.
I guess we're just shooting that cowboy stereotype in the face.
Yeah, there we go. I think one of the village people was in fact a cowboy, but that's like the best that we can really do here. Then we're gonna have to do better.
In our opposition, we basically have our sort of friendly crackling pairing with just the sort of cowboy thing or whatever, which isn't that heavily laced in a way. It's more of a...
Not really, no.
Yeah, it's more a friendo thing. Versus what Dio has done to his life based on his thoughts about Jonathan.
Because that's the thing about Dio, is that texturally, Dio is... I don't know. What the writer intended... I think Araki probably wrote him as straight. He seems to have, had enough time to have had a kid. I read him as uninterested in matters of the flesh. Besides,
what it can get him.
Here's the other thing, is that we're getting into like the weird fucking like a dude fused to another dude thing, because he stole his adoptive brother's body and fused his head to it. So I don't even fucking know, man. Like, how do you read that?
It's a non-zero statement. In ranking these two, I think we've ended up thinking that there's not much to putting it on Steel Ball Run, but there is some kind of intangible something to it in Phantom Blood.
I think you're right.
So I'm going to put Phantom Blood at 6.
Steel Ball Run at 7.
All right. So everyone, I'm going to run down a list now because there was that sort of little confusing stretch where we're putting Stardust Crusaders because I completely misinterpreted some lexical ambiguity of Sam earlier. 1. The gayest Jojo part. Vento Ario, a.k.a. Part 5.
And it's honestly, in retrospect, it's not even fucking close.
Really went forward on that.
Like even with Part 2, which is even with Battle Tendency, which is number 2 spot on this list.
One could call it a blowout in air quotes. Rank 2. Battle Tendency, which is also Part 2, so as above so below in that. Aesthetics means something and it is glistening.
The other problem with ranking Part 2 higher than that is that you've got Joseph Joestar, who's not the only character in it, sure, but I'm pretty sure he's just the biggest skirt chaser in that series, just the entire series.
Yes, he does really just jump toward that maid and just have some amusing commentary on people that he turns out to be related to. Rank 3. A bit more of a part imitation. Stardust Crusaders. Several dudes on their dude road trip to visit another dude and deliver a fist.
Here's like the interesting thing, though, is that I almost feel like it could have ended up higher on the list, but remember that one chapter where they had... I can't remember the name of the stand, but Abdul and Joseph ended up, like, magneted to one another, and it was the basis of a whole bunch of gay jokes that only a straight dude could have made. And it made it less gay.
Chapter.
It made it less gay.
I can't remember what that stand was called. Man, I guess if there's a skip episode. Right after that, rank 4. Stone Ocean. I was that part. Mm-hmm. Part 6. And again, just...
It's mostly just Poochie's fucking presence in that thing.
It's Poochie's fucking presence, which blows its setting in a prison out of the water. Which is really funny.
You would expect Some Orange is the New Black out of that, but no, it's just...
It's just one man singing the inverse of the song Hellfire. Rank 5. Mm-hmm. The ongoing, ever-fashionable, very good, in my opinion, Jojo Leon.
I have this idea in my head of Part 6 being a movie, and they get Lil Nas X to play Enrico Pucci.
I'd watch.
Would you not watch? I would watch.
I would be watching. I would be consuming this content. His character is so in his 30s. He could change it. He just change his shit, whatever.
Conceivably, because this exists in the realm of fantasy, we could say, and they have to wait a few years to make this movie. And Lil Nas X will be in his 30s by then. He'll be
make
the
him
perfect
Nas X. It's a stock joke, but I can't get away from it.
God fucking damn it.
Rank 6.
I'm so fucking ashamed of myself for laughing at that.
We are in the viable dad ages.
No.
That's 29 and 28, in case you're wondering.
Allegedly, Morgan was telling me that I had made some joke about elote at some point. This was a couple of weeks ago.
What's elote?
Elote is this Mexican street food that's it's corn on the cob with a whole bunch of shit on it.
Dope.
But good shit. Spices and stuff like that. It's quite tasty.
Okay. And
they were going on about how awful this joke was, and I can't even fucking remember it. Although I spent that day pretty fucking drunk, and they were talking about this bad joke, and then I just asked them if it was a corny joke. Woo! And I swear to fucking God, I thought they were setting me up for that punchline, but they were angry with me.
I'm glad that didn't end up anything being thrown.
Because I don't remember what the fuck they were talking about. I don't remember making that joke. I don't think I did.
You know what's good? They'll forgive you at some point before you die.
Maybe. I don't know. I keep fucking doing it, though. So that's a lot to end up forgiving.
Watch that shit, homie. Rank 6. Phantom Blood. Part 1. Start of this whole Crazy Train. Is Crazy Train a stand yet? It must be, whatever.
It's gotta be.
It's gotta be. I'm sure I'm forgetting a Crazy Train.
Oh, I feel like Black Sabbath is a train. No, Black Sabbath is totally a stand. So I don't believe that Crazy Train is.
Fair enough. Rank 7. Oh, we hit the imitative fallacy again. Steel Ball Run, Part 7.
Part 7. Funny how these things work out.
And rank 8, the least gay Jojo, according to the Weeaboo Hell rankings, sorry to Hikagashita,
sorry to fuck with your headcanons.
Shippers, Diamond is unbreakable.
Yeah,
Just shithead kids, I don't know.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Out of all 5 parts, I have found that part 5 seems to have the most, like, female fan service in Trish, right?
Uh-huh.
But Trish doesn't even fucking count as extenuating circumstances to make part 5 any more heterosexual, because it's just... It ain't.
There's so much not Trish.
The point I'm trying to make here is that part 4 is provides the second most female fan service. There we go. Good lord, that took me forever to fucking work out.
Sometimes we have to go on a journey. I mean, it definitely trailblazed all that yandere business.
Yeah, that was kind of early, wasn't it?
Araki's a smart dude. I know. He can smell things that other people can't. And it let him make loads of money, albeit with loads of effort. So maybe not quite what we normally associate that joke with.
Yeah, no, he didn't invent something and then cash in on it for the rest of his life. He's still writing this.
He just invented
still
smart things and
still forgetting things.
What a great man. Anyway, I'm just going to run through this without any editorialization, just for those of you who want the list in easy form.
Sure.
1, Vento Ario, which is part 5. 2, Battle Tensei, which is part 2. 3, Stardust Crusaders, which is part 3. 4, Stone Ocean, which is part 6. 5, Jojo Leon, which is part 8. 6, Phantom Blood, which is part 1. 7, Steel Ball Run, which is part 7. 8, Diamond is Unbreakable, which is part 4. Or if you're a fucking nerd, Diamond is not Crash, in which case I say just...
What a beautiful duo.
Anyway, this has been Weeaboo Hell.
It's Weeaboo Hell.
And you don't owe the internet shit. All of you out there, you do not owe the internet shit. Congratulations on your promotion, Sam.
Oh, thank you, Dennard. Congratulations on the piece in the magazine of note. I don't
Hoorah.
know if I'm allowed to mention its name. I'm not gonna.
Who fucking knows? Let's see how it rolls out.